Everybody. Oh, we're recording. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our call.
I think everyone is muted.
Okay, great. I can't see who's muted, but okay. I'm not muted though, am I? All right. Hi, everybody. I am Sarah Kroger. I am so sorry. This is one of those like real life kind of things. That's kind of how our team rolls, right? We are real life people. The majority of us have a boatload of children, just to say it nicely, and we're all putting kids to bed, and you may hear me like holler at the stairs behind me because I like threaten them. I'm like, if I have to stop my call to come and put you back to bed, but we're all here with smiles on our faces because this is that important to us, that even though it is really hard to get everybody in bed and everything calmed down for the evening, that's how important these calls are, and that's how much of a difference that it has made to us. So I'm Sarah Kroger. I know some of you because we're in the same challenge group together, but I wanted to welcome everybody who's in the other challenge group for this month. And just kind of I want to give you a little bit of practical advice, and then I want to get a little metaphorical on you because Kelly calls me the queen of metaphors because I just think there's such a great and poignant way to use what's around you to learn a lesson, basically. But I wanted to just remind you, on Sunday nights, I think it's really important, whether you dive crazy deep into this or just touch on it, to look at your calendar and kind of wrap your head around what's coming for the week. Whether you plan out your whole day or you just have a list of what's happening this week, I kid you not, tonight is a perfect example of this. Someone's coming down the stairs right now. It's a perfect example of this. My husband and I both had meetings tonight, and I knew about his and he knew about mine, but we didn't look at the calendar and realize they were at the same time. But his isn't here. His is at another place. So that meant I was putting kids to bed and trying to be here with you guys. So that little bit of miscommunication made a little bit of a hectic evening for both of us, because we had to eat early and all that kind of stuff. So I really just want to remind you to look at it and kind of plan, even if you don't plan exactly what you're eating each night. I don't like to do that. I need to do that. It's good for me and my week goes better when I do it, but I kind of balk at that for some reason still. So a lot of times on my refrigerator, I have a list of 4 or 5 dinners that I have all the ingredients for, but I don't have to assign it to a certain night. It's just something that I can make that week. When I look at the refrigerator, it also makes me feel like I still have choice and flexibility. Like, what do I feel like tonight? I will say the best thing to do is to plan out which night I'm going to have it and to look at what night I need to be in the crock pot and all that kind of stuff. But, oh, sorry, somebody piped in. But I really think that even just having an idea for your schedule, for your meals, for that kind of stuff will help make your week go smoothly. I also want to encourage you in your group, especially those of you who are not in a challenge group for the first time, to be sharing your wins. We had somebody in our challenge group who, this is her second challenge. She just finished 80-Day Obsession yesterday, and she's posting her mindset shifts and everything that she's overcome. This is somebody who lost a child, gained a bunch of weight with other pregnancies, had a major birthday, like a major decade turning, all of this stuff, all kind of at the same time. And she lost, I think she said she lost 18 pounds and 20 some inches and can do push-ups on her toes and tricep push-ups. And she's sharing all this in the group. And I want to encourage you guys to really shout that stuff out, because somebody wants to be where you are right now. There is someone else in this group who is struggling to walk away from a pattern of behavior that has kept them captive, that wants to be where you are. And that's hard to remember because you're still looking forward. You're still looking at somebody who is where you want to be, and you forget that there's somebody who wants to be where you are now. And so by sharing those wins, by pointing out those successes, by getting in and commenting on other people's posts, don't wait just for the coaches to do that. Like, this is your group. And part of the power of that is for you to reach out and hold on to the people in the group with you and encourage them that's like, it's like you're climbing a mountain and you're reaching back to the person behind you. Be the person behind you. You're reaching out to the person behind you and helping them up the rock, right? That's what you're doing. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about my journey and kind of how it started with these challenge groups and how it has led to some changes in my life now. So 4 years ago now, has it really been that long? That's crazy. 3.5, let's say 3.5, that sounds better. 3.5 years ago now, Kelly and I were friends through friends, and she invited me to join a challenge group. And she happened to hit me. Actually, the funny thing is, and this rolls up in her time hop on Facebook periodically, she announces that she's starting this new business venture. And the very, very, very first comment underneath her was me. And my comment was, good luck with that. But I didn't want anything to do with it the very first time I heard it. But she caught me a second time around in a really good place and invited me to join her for a challenge group. She didn't know at the time, but my husband, who's in the military, was getting ready to leave basically for the whole summer for a big, long training. And I was going to have this like Biggest Loser transformation. I was going to, of course, in like 2 months, I was going to lose like 100 pounds and, everything was going to be totally different. That's kind of what I thought. I was like, all I need to do is buckle down, right? All I need is buckle down and be perfect. And he won't even recognize me. He'll come home. I'll be a completely different person. Well, the funny thing of it is, a week after he left, so I signed up, Challenge Pack, Shakeology. I was going to do, it was a mixed martial arts program that we had, an old one. And frankly, I love it. It's still one of my favorites. Week after he left, I found out that I was pregnant with our 5th baby. And that obviously changed my whole mindset, really. And I struggled because I still was going to work out. And I did. Frankly, that was my healthiest pregnancy of all of them so far. But I wasn't obviously going to have I was going to have a big transformation while he was gone, but not so much this Biggest Loser transformation that I thought I was going to have. And it was really, it really hit me. It was really hard for me to shift gears mentally. And I was really discouraged because I wasn't going to be able to, this was going to be my moment, right? This is going to be my moment. And I don't know if any of you can identify with that. Maybe not exactly, but somewhere where you had this enormous goal and you were confident that it was just going to happen like that. And then something happened and it really shifted my focus. I still had a great challenge. I still worked out. I still drank my shake. Frankly, my shake was a lifesaver in my first trimester when I couldn't keep any food down. I knew at least I was getting some vitamins and nutrients throughout the day, right? And that made a huge difference. But this was my strongest, fastest labor, best pregnancy of all of them. And it really was because I dug in and focused on this and did my workouts and focused on my nutrition and all of that. Right after my baby was born, that baby number 5, in 6 weeks, I had a baby. My father-in-law died. We moved. And my husband got a new job in 6 weeks. Oh, and I had mastitis, really bad. I wonder why, in all of that. And it was another example of how I really thought, I'm going to live this baby and now I'm going to have my big transformation, right? And that kind of threw me for a loop. I gained more weight after I was pregnant with number 5 than I did while I was pregnant with number 5. And it felt like I was and here I was like a coach and running challenges and all of that kind of stuff. And I was really, really struggling. And it took a while for me to kind of put my finger on all of it. Because I thought I just needed to work harder. I just needed a better program. I just needed a better meal plan. I just needed to say no to more things. I just, there was something that like I was broken. And if I could just work harder. if I could just be in the right challenge group, all of that would be fixed. And then I started digging in, and finally, like, the voices that I'd been hearing for this whole time, what are you reading for personal development? Oh, nothing. I don't like that. I love myself crap. Like, that's just ridiculous. It doesn't work. I don't need to look in the mirror and tell myself I'm beautiful and amazing. Like, that's just dumb. But I finally got a hold of something, and I wish I could remember what it was because it would make for a better story, that really kind of spoke to me. And I started listening to some podcasts and watching some YouTube videos. Eric Thomas is amazing. If you've never listened to him, if you don't have time to sit and read, look up Eric Thomas on YouTube and just watch his videos. They're incredible. I started listening to Pep Talk, and I actually did read some books. And I saw the same thread moving through each one of them. And all of it had to do with the power to change based on your belief. And that everything rises and falls on your belief. And if you can't believe it and you can't envision it, it makes it really hard to do it. And it was such a strange and very slow shift for me. And I kept doing my challenge groups, and I would see some weight loss happen, and then I would plateau, and then I'd see a little bit more, and then I would plateau. But I kept hearing from my mentors, from my coach, from her coach and her coach and her coach, from some of the people who've been doing this for longer. Remember I said there's somebody who is where you want to be, somebody who is a couple of steps ahead of you. When I started watching the people who were a couple of steps ahead of me, not because they were better than me, not because they were smarter than me or worked harder than me, they just had been doing it longer. They just had read more things. They just had participated in more failures. Frankly, those people that I was learning from had just failed more than I had, right? I started to see these common trends. Of course, all of them said, you have to be listening or reading something positive, something to improve a facet of your life. And all of them talked about getting surrounded, getting in the room with people, getting on calls like this, getting in groups where people are encouraging. And each of them, I kept noticing the ones that I had personal connections with listened to what I was saying and loved me through that, but then challenged me and said, listen, you cannot just stay in that suck, right? Because I was looking for the quick fix, right? So we talked, I talked in our challenge group earlier this week about sprouts and gardening. God willing, the snow is done in northeastern Ohio, and I can plant my garden, right? We started some plants inside this week, and in 2 or 3 days, we already have these little sprouts growing up. But we have to watch them. We have to water them. We have to make sure that they've got good access to sunlight. We don't put them outside before it's warm enough, all those kinds of things. We have to tenderly care for those sprouts. And I was sharing with my group that our journey is like that. This whole time that I thought I was going to have this Biggest Loser moment, that I thought I was going to have this baby and then everything was going to change. I was going to move and I was going to get my house unpacked and then everything was going to change. I was looking for an oak tree 5 minutes after I had planted an acorn, right? I wasn't seeing the little baby plants poking up out of the ground in my soil. I certainly wasn't protecting them and nurturing them and helping them grow. I wasn't noticing those things. And that's what the big shift for me was. The biggest shift for me in the last couple of years was when people said, Sarah, what did you do well? What went well? What has changed? How are you a different person now from where you were before? How are you what's your relationship with food like now that's different from before? What are you eating now that you weren't before? Guys, I kid you not, when I talk to my coach or other coaches on our team, when I'm having a rough day and I look at my food log, it's almost laughable what falling off the wagon for me looks like now compared to what falling off the wagon looked like for me before. Okay, so falling off the wagon a little bit was my day yesterday when I had a sandwich at a restaurant with real bread. Because for what it's worth, I'm not telling you can't eat bread. I'm truly not. The human race would not have survived if everyone was supposed to not eat bread. It's just a fact. I am working on some healing things. I have rheumatoid arthritis, and Americanized gluten is a trigger for me. It just is. And I have learned that about myself over the last couple of months. So for me, it was not a good choice. So I had that and an organic, non-GMO peanut butter cup. That was me falling off the wagon yesterday. Compared to me years ago was like a bag of Cheetos and half of a 2-liter of Mountain Dew. Actually, that wasn't even falling off the wagon. That was just a snack. And so it was shifting my focus to looking at those sprouts and thinking about how I can make those sprouts grow. And then that kind of has shifted into tendering those teenage plants, right? The ones that are ready to go out into my garden. I am right now turning over the top of the soil, adding some fertilizer, adding some compost and those kinds of things. And Kelly and Megan and I were talking recently about Miracle-Gro. And one of them said to me something along the lines of like, you know, it's just when God dumps Miracle-Gro in my situation. And I said, yeah, except Miracle-Gro is toxic. It looks pretty, it looks shiny, but it's toxic. What really happened is he dumped a bunch of manure on top of you. And that really, you know, and it got me thinking, and I was like, you know what, that's the next metaphor. That's the next metaphor, because we all are chasing. That's what I was chasing. I was chasing the bag of Miracle-Gro. I wanted it to be shiny and pretty with a big picture of a huge flower on the front of it. I wanted it to come in a nice bag with a little zippy top so it didn't spill all over the place. It didn't smell like anything. And you just sprinkle it on and everything is perfect. And you just sit back and you just watch it grow, right? That's like praying for something and being like, okay, God, just give it to me, right? Without actually working for it. When really, if you look into it, if you want a healthy and fruitful garden, the stuff that you put on it is kind of gross. It's manure. It's compost. Actually, compost isn't really gross. It doesn't smell, but go with me here. I put something called blood meal on my garden. You know, like it doesn't sound good. It's not exciting. And it seems kind of slow at first. But if you really trust that process and you really trust that shift and you really learn about how your body works and what fuels it and what's just like a Band-Aid, if you have a headache, there's nothing wrong with taking some ibuprofen. There's nothing wrong with that. But that isn't fixing your problem. You haven't discovered why you have a headache every day. I run into people who have a headache every single day, and they take ibuprofen for their headache every single day because that's the only way that they can get to sleep at night. Okay, I want to know why I have a headache every day. I want to know why my elbow or my joints or my collarbone hurt. I don't want to take the medicine that makes the hurt number. I want to find out why I have that pain. Ow. That's nice timing. My kid just goes, ow, in the other room. That's what I want to do. I want to look at, and I will tell you, it's still tempting. It's still tempting to buy the bag of Miracle-Gro, even though I know it's toxic, even though I know it is going to hurt me in the long run, even though I know it is not going to really solve my problem or create a shift. And I have to be reminded of that. I have to have people in my life who say to me, like, now, Sarah, you said you really wanted to know why you have a headache every day and not just put a Band-Aid on it, right? I had to learn to shift that mindset. And I have to keep learning to shift that mindset. I have to keep learning to focus in that direction. I have to keep learning to continue to grow. Okay. I have to keep learning to not look back, to go backwards, but to look back to see where I was and how far I've come and to celebrate that. I need to be able to look back and I need to say, you know what? All those years ago when my husband was getting ready to leave for training and I was going to have this big transformation, I set myself up for failure. I did. Because I didn't set my goals in such a way that I could even measure them. I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't have a vision for what I wanted the end of his trip to look like. And I have to be really wary when I talk to people about that, because I don't want you to say, well, I'm going to lose 20 pounds before July, which for the record, I think is a completely realistic goal. I think losing 20 pounds between now and July is 100% doable. But I want you to have more than that because I want to hear why that's your magic number. And I want you to have a good plan for how you're going to do that. And I want you to have other things that you can measure your success by. Because I guarantee you, and this was true for me too, and my goal was bigger than 20 pounds. When I didn't hit my goal in the time that I set, it took a lot of encouragement from the people around me to help me see what I did do. And at this point, I value what did happen in my life over what I would have valued losing that weight. Because FYI, I got pregnant again. I mean, y'all haven't met my husband. If you've met him, you'd understand. But so I'm pregnant again. So that, again, shifted my focus. I, and you as well, you need to value all of those other changes, because now I'm the person who can sustain that major weight loss. I wasn't before. Do you know what would have happened before if I had had that major weight loss? Do you know where I would be now if I had just lost all that weight? I'd be right back where I started. I would have only lost that weight for the time that I was really focused on it. And then I would have relaxed and I would have gone right back to my old habits. Because it didn't really change my habits. It didn't really change my mindset. I miracle-growed myself mentally, right? I just abandoned my habits for a time in order to hit what I thought was a dangling carrot in front of me. Actually, I didn't. It was a dangling carrot. I didn't see it that way. Now I am becoming the person who can sustain that type of change. And looking back, I value that more. Becoming that person who can believe it's possible, who can imagine what my life will be like through that change, will imagine what the people around me and how they will be impacted. And frankly, honestly, and actually I'm going to do this on this week, I'm going to post a picture of my husband and I on, we just went and visited my parents last week, and there was a picture of the two of us one night when we went out to dinner. Pregnant, by the way, 23 weeks pregnant. And I'm going to post that picture compared to a picture of me when I started not pregnant. And I want to remind you that I did not hit my big goal. Really, really did not hit my big goal. And you would be shocked at the changes to my outside once I worked on those mindset shifts. So I'm going to tell you, we're going to hit this mindset piece really hard, because all of us have had this major mindset shift that is the only way we can sustain this physical change. You will find someone, I promise you, especially right now with some of the current trends in weight loss, you will find someone who drops a ton of weight like that. And I honestly pray that they can make a lifestyle change and keep it off. But what I've seen over the last year, we all compare, right? We look at people who started the same time we did, and we look at them. These people who started the same time I did, who hit that big goal, fell off and are now starting over again. I could easily name half a dozen people that I have been on a parallel journey with who have not, they focused on just the habits which is good. Habits are good. Rituals are good, but they're missing a piece. And so when you keep hearing us talk about personal development and mindset, know that it is because I have fallen flat on my face in that department. I have failed miserably in that department. And I can tell you with amazing certainty that that's the game changer. Being with these people, having people who see you, who see your struggle, who remind you that you are not alone, who do not expect you to eat all the weird stuff that I eat right now. Yeah, Kelly, who look at your blind spots, who can see them. And other coaches too. Kelly and I are really close friends now through all of this. And when she's having a rough day and she can text me about it, and I can remind her of where she's lost a little bit of focus. Remember that thing you told me that one time? That's what you need to remember. And I use her words against her. And believe me, it makes her as mad as it does me when she does the same thing to me. You know why? Because she listens when I tell her what's important to me. And she listens and she asks me, just like I ask you guys, what does winning look like for you? How do you define that? What is a successful weekend? How do you know when you've hit your goals? It's not the same for her. Her goals are not the same as mine. She doesn't judge my progress by her goals. She reminds me of what I said my goals were. But the process is the same, right? We don't have the same goals, but we both need to be working on our mindset. We both need to be tracking what we eat and how it makes us feel. Guys, that's what I have my notebook right here in front of me. It sits on my table. It says what I eat on one side and how it made me feel on the other side. This has been such an eye-opening thing, and it forces me to really recognize what's in front of me. And sometimes it's slow because the manure in the compost is slow. It doesn't come in a pretty shiny bag. It comes in a very plain bag or in a big truckload in your driveway. And you have to shovel it, and you have to spread it, and you have to nurture it, and you have to believe that it'll grow. And when you first start, that's really, really hard. It's like when you plant a seed and you see nothing for weeks. Some seeds take a really long time to germinate. But because anybody who's ever done the little baggie with the bean on the window, you know that stuff happens right away, right? You know that it puffs up and that it opens up and the little thing comes out because you can see it. So now I know that in my seed trays, there's stuff happening beneath the soil, even though I can't see it. You have to believe that about this journey. You have to take the word of the people who are ahead of you, and you have to remember the little seed, the little bean in the baggie, right? It just needs a little bit of time. You have to give it water. You have to feed it. You have to give it sunshine. But it takes a little bit of time, and you can't rush that. You can't split open the seed and expect to get a plant, right? That's where you are now. One of my favorite things that I've seen going around Facebook is it's something like sometimes you feel like you're buried, but maybe you were just planted. And you kind of have to put that in front of you, right? I think I'm going to slow down on the metaphors because that's going a little crazy. But I want you to just think about it. This is the time of year when people are planting gardens, when you're going to start to see fresh fruits and vegetables available on roadside stands and farmers markets. It's my favorite time of year because it's so hopeful and it makes me want to eat healthy. Like buying fresh vegetables. Like, I don't know, maybe I read a book a while ago, actually before I started this journey, and it was a family who went on this endeavor to just eat fresh and local all year round, but they started in like March, and it's like impossible unless you live in Southern California or Florida to eat fresh and local 100% of the time in March. But guys, it's the end of April. It's almost May. Now is when you're going to start seeing, frankly, if you're in the South, you've already got berries. Yay. But even up here in the north, you're going to start seeing asparagus and spinach and lettuce and kale and cabbage and broccoli and peas and those kinds of things, which FYI are amazingly healthy, non-starchy vegetables. right? This is a really exciting time to make some of those shifts. But I want you, even if you're not a gardener, think about gardening and think about where you are in that growing process. Do you feel like you're in the dark under a heap of dirt? Do you feel like you're a tiny sprout that's poking out of the ground? Do you feel like you started off really strong and you shot up, but now you're struggling and you need to be fertilized, you need to be fed? Where are you in that process? That's the kind of thing that you communicate to your coach or communicate to your group. How amazing would it be if we saw posts tomorrow and people were like, totally buried. I'm a sprout. I need a fertilizer. Because how much does that tell you about where you are and what you need to do next? Right? That tells you and everybody around you what you need this week. So when your coach asks you or someone in the group asks you, what are you going to focus on this week? You know what? I need to be fed. I need to be fertilized. I need to look at what I'm eating and make some hard cuts. Because I don't know about you, I tend to kind of dig in my heels and have a pity party right before a big change. Because I know what I need to do, and I just don't wanna. And if you're in that boat, sometimes speaking it out makes all the difference. If you're having doubts or if you're having fears, sometimes just speaking them out to the group can eliminate it. It's like turning on the light in a haunted house. It's not scary anymore when you can see into the corners. I stole that analogy from somebody else, by the way. That's not a Sarah original, but it's a really good one because it's not a scary place when you turn the light on, right? That's what this group is. This group is the light in your haunted house. That's what your coach is. Your coach is just somebody who was in your position before, who's now gone through this a couple of times. Oh, Stephen Furtick said it. I thought it was Summer. Obviously, she got it from Stephen Furtick. I love it. Stolen metaphors. Why reinvent the wheel, right? If it was good, we might as well keep using it. But anyway, that's what I think you need to do. That's what I think your big takeaway for tonight is. The thing that I'd love for you to think about, journal about, converse with your coach, talk about it in the group. Where are you? Where are you in this growing process? Because I'll tell you, the girl I was referencing at the beginning, who just finished 80 Day Obsession, has a unique new situation. And this is true too. After you have a big epic win, sometimes it's hard to move on to the next thing, move on to the second set of challenges, move on to the next deeper level of your growth. Sometimes that's really hard because you're in a really amazing place and you should celebrate it because it's an amazing accomplishment. And sometimes it's hard to keep going from that, right? So she's in a very different place than somebody who is literally 1 week into their very first challenge group, right? That person 1 week into their very first challenge group is barely sprouting, but needs to protect that with their life and recognize it and see it as good. And instead of looking at the 10 things that didn't go well today, look at that sprout. I love having those little trays of veggies in the house because every time I walk past them and I see those tiny, I mean, they're tiny little sprouts, like reaching for the sunlight. Because you can see them. They go this way in the morning and then they go this way in the evening, depending on which side of the house the sun is on. That stuff is really powerful. So that's what I would encourage you guys to do, is just mention in your group, mention to your coach, tell somebody where you are. Think about it, decide what part of the plant are you, and share that, because I think that will really give you some good focus for where to go this week. Yeah, so I guess that's your homework assignment for the night. Thank you guys for hopping on. Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
Thank you. That was awesome. I don't know if anybody wanted to add anything. That was good.
Well, we were talking, the coaches in our group, and I was like, well, jump in if you have anything, but I kind of have, I got a bee in my bonnet about this, and I wanted to kind of share it. So.
I will never see manure the same again.
You know what, though? Like, what did you say? Like, holy, you know what? You know?
It literally is holy poop.
It's good stuff. Well, I want you guys to look at your calendars, decide how your week is going to go, look at where your stressful days are going to hit, because we all have them. It's nice to know ahead of time so you don't, I get blindsided. I don't know how I do. We do the same thing every week, and every week it's like, oh my gosh, it's Monday, you know. But looking at it ahead of time kind of helps you wrap your head around it and then think about that plan. And I hope you guys have a great week.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Does anybody have anything they want to add or ask before I shut us off?
I didn't see all the chat. Oh, there it was.
No? Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for popping on and sharing. You guys have a good night. Let's have an
Have a
awesome
good week.